Jeff, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm super excited about today's show, everybody. I'm going to have a great conversation with Jeff. We're going to hear some of his amazing music that's coming up. He's going to talk about his upcoming show. Then we're going to hear from my friend Corey Hartland, who's going to talk about his show and some upcoming shows as well. Amazing episode. Thanks everybody for watching. Grab your popcorn, your chips, whatever you need. Sit down and let's get started. Jeff, how you doing, pal?
Doing really well. How are you?
I'm great, thanks so much. It's
Awesome.
been a minute since we saw each other.
It has been pre-COVID, I believe.
I think that it was. So
Yeah.
for anybody that's watching, we met. So I was your fan / stalker, I think. And it's okay if I say it to everybody, then that releases me of any liability. But I was a big fan of your music before. And I remember we were holding a show in Grand Bay at the pool hall, if I remember right. And we were, it was a show to raise funds for the community, and I reached out to you and I said, look, we're having a show, the pay is nothing, and you said, sign me up. I love helping out in my community, and you crushed it. You did an amazing job as always. I've always loved your music and your community involvement and efforts and anything. So you're a fabulous, fabulous fella. And did I say the right words that you wanted me to say?
Yes,
Are you going to give me the money later?
Checks in the mail.
Perfect.
E-transfer? No,
E-transfer is perfect.
Awesome.
On a more serious note, what have you been up to and who are you?
Yeah, so Jeff McGrath, and you know, really just a local musician that has just been kind of in a smattering of projects over the years, and balancing that with, you know, family life and professional life. And so COVID, I think, was something that really woke up a few of my fellow musicians that I grew up playing with. And being adults, I think we felt like it was time to get back out there and play some meaningful shows. And so that's the plan. The plan's to get you know, that following built up and let folks know that we're out there to put on a good experience and not just a concert.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about your upcoming shows because you have a really big one that I can't wait to talk about.
Yeah.
But this is TV, so we need to build everybody up for it, like the way that you put Santa Claus at the end of the parade and not the beginning. So what got you into music, and how long have you been in music?
Yeah, so I've been playing music. I started playing guitar. I had found a beat-up Yamaha acoustic in my mom's, you know, back of my mom's closet back when I was, you know, probably like 6, 7 years old, and just like any kid, jumped onto I was a 90s kid growing up, so anything that was Nirvana or Pearl Jam or any of that kind of acoustic-driven, angsty rock from the Seattle scene back in the days was always caught my attention. So I cut my teeth playing to that music, as well as a nice blend of a lot of my parents' music, which was mostly folk music, and then later in life took on, you know, other instruments like drums and bass, and did a lot of recording and production. So I've just always had a really big place in my heart for music, not just playing it, but creating, producing, getting behind other folks if I can, and you know, trying to push that stuff forward.
Were you self-taught?
I was, yeah.
For all of your instruments, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of really great musicians that surrounded me coming up, and you know, it was always it was great to collaborate and grab ideas and, you know, learn chords from.
Did you say musicians or magicians?
Musicians.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Some of them probably were magicians in my early days, as far as how much work it took to get to a certain level, but. Yeah, always, and the world's so different now. We can jump online and learn any song or learn any chord. Back in those days, you know, we got in each other's living rooms and had to get face to face, right? So I was blessed with a lot of really great people to help teach me along the way. So when
did you discover you can sing, or did you know that you could sing? So some people I know say they can sing, and you're like, you shouldn't be singing.
I don't know that I ever did. I just, it was a natural thing for me when I put an album on when I was a kid. You know, whether it was a Lennon or a Cobain or whatever it was,
nice.
I just always felt that was my role, to be on the mic and to play, like to be on a guitar and on a mic. And so that's why I think a lot of frontman type personas, I was always naturally attracted to them. In the 90s and into the early 2000s, that music, that scene, I think it really was a voice for a generation, and I felt very much as part of that generation and kind of found a bit of an identity in it. So I think for me, singing is as much an instrument as it is guitar, right? It's giving the opportunity to recreate those words, those phrases, those lyrics that writers like some of the great writers of the 90s and early 2000s I think that it's just as much as creating a great guitar solo. It's that opportunity to recreate those lyrics, right? So
absolutely. And how many albums do you have out to date, or how many songs have you written roughly, right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of projects kind of out through the years. So years ago, I had an album with a band called Found, which was a full release, and it did some traveling around about the world there. But in recent years, it's been mostly singles that we would release. Currently have a track on Amazon Music, which is called "Who You Were." I believe you actually helped us promote this back in the
radio
college
campus days, right?
Yes, that's
back
right.
When I was in the radio campus.
I think you were one of the first to give us radio play on that. So that was a very written as kind of a self-awareness campaign. Take a look in the mirror, let go, and push forward with your own energy. And it was kind of written as an event.
And a message too, I think, if I remember correctly.
Big time,
right?
Yeah. It was at a time where I think we were really trying to promote folks getting together in person. And
unity. I remember that. I remember that. Yeah. That was something special, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, it was. And then of course, COVID snuck up about 6 months later, and here we were. Here we are. So.
And that was Found. Right.
That was actually Awaken Westward.
Awaken West, yeah, okay, perfect.
That's right.
And then, but you've written so many songs over the years.
Yeah, there's been a lot. That's just, a lot of writing, a lot of just working and collaborating with other artists that are original artists, and just helping them produce and find the right sound.
Sure.
And I love that. I love that construction of music that happens, that architecture, literally of music, building it from the ground up. And I feel like when I go back in time, if you say, what's it like to go back to your roots? The roots is an acoustic guitar and a microphone, right? Stripped down as possible.
Which is perfect.
Yeah, it's where it all starts.
And you have, with your voice, you have this kind of rawness. So when you sing, you can feel like your energy coming from it. Do you find it's because when you sing a song, you connect with the song that you choose?
Yeah.
Am I onto something?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to, I think, believe in either the artist or the song to really want to play it, cover it, or be inspired by it, and let it fuel a new project. And I think, so for me, that rasp or grit that comes, it's something I, from time to time, try to veer away from, but I always end up coming back to it because I think it's just very relative to a lot of the artists that influenced me at a young age, which would be the Cobains and the Eddie Vedders and those folks. So, and I think the grittiness, again, it's like if you're a drummer, it's very easy to get out your frustration. It's very easy to get out your if you're using music as any kind of coping mechanism for your feelings and emotions. Drummers have, at least rock drummers for sure, have that beautiful outlet of smashing and hitting the heads of the drums. Singers, that's our equivalent, right? Is that being able to kind of push through and have that raw emotion outlet within lyrics, and whether there was their original lyrics or whether they are coming from some of these great bands.
Yeah, because some songs are written. You hear it, and you're like, that song was written for me.
Totally.
Right? Yeah, and. So you're happily married and you have 19 kids, or how many kids that you have now?
We have 4 between us, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And your wife is lovely, so talk about your family life a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 4 kids. They're all pretty much teenagers now, so everybody's pretty independent, which is another reason why it's a bit easier to kind of get back into that scene that becomes a little bit difficult to balance with family world. We're working away and living, in the city. And I think, the big thing for us is we just like to try to balance life. And so play hard, work hard, and so that's where we're at.
And have your kids been introduced to any of your music? And
they have,
are they musically inclined?
They're not. My son is a little. He's kind of hooking on to the world of. He was actually in Miracle on 34th Street this year. At the Imperial, so it was his first audition, and got the role. So we're really proud of that. So he's starting to at least kind of go in the direction of entertainment and the arts, and we have a lot of athletes in the house that it's a little different vibe. But our big thing is just be who you are in this life. So
that's a great way to say it. So is music Is your kids' music different from your music, or are you the music back in my day was now kids?
It's funny that you say that, because I remember my parents and folks growing up trying to influence and say, music in my day. And or music was better in my day. I think that was the big one. And I feel like as we're coming into our own as adults, we're starting to hear a little bit of that sneak up from time to time in conversations. It's like, oh, that sounds like literally the last 4 songs on the radio all sound like one song.
Yeah.
You should listen to this album. And I have a daughter that does kind of jump in and lets us help her discover some of the music from, anywhere from the 50s all the way up into the 90s, early 2000s, like songs that we really grew up on and hold near and dear. So she's constantly adding to her playlist on Amazon as a result of some of our suggestions, but
Fabulous.
has also gone out and found some great music on her own as well. So, and loves that kind of more ambient acoustic singer-songwriter feel, which has been kind of neat. So we feel like we have a little influence there. But
and you have a show coming up. So let's talk about the reason why you didn't just come here to see this face or to talk to me, or you did?
I mean, it was
there. It was inevitable.
The cherry on the
it was.
The offer, right?
But you have something fabulous so folks will get to hear the songs at the end, but
absolutely. So we thought over the COVID pandemic that it would be cool to recreate Nirvana's MTV Unplugged performance in New York. It was back in 1993 that it was filmed, so we're actually on the 30th year anniversary, which is hard to believe that album was created 30 years ago this year. So we thought, hey, how prudent would it be to do a live tribute to Nirvana?
Sure.
Not a band we feel like gets tributes to a whole lot, and they definitely don't come around here. So we made some phone calls, got the boys back together from junior high days, and decided to kind of create an event that we felt other people would appreciate and enjoy. And so it's now built into, it's a live show, Phoenix Dinner Theater rather, on May the 5th.
Okay.
Doors will open at 7:30. We're going to recreate not only the album, but the experience hopefully as well. So it'll be staged for the night. And of course, the Phoenix are such great hosts. They've got food available. They've got drinks available.
Wait, you get to eat and take in a concert?
Eat, take in a concert, absolutely. And show will start at 9, so lots of time to get in, get a seat, get some food. Tickets are already almost 50% sold.
Already?
And this thing's 5 weeks out, so we're really excited as to how well it's been received.
Yeah. So is it you performing by yourself?
It's not. So we're recreating the album note for note. So that means that there are 6 of us on stage that night. Yeah, so we have of course, the founding members of Nirvana, I guess your place of Nirvana, which is a 4-piece band, 2 guitars and a drummer and a bassist. So that'll of course be created, but we also are bringing in special for that night, Emily Nombro, who is our cellist, and Kevin Scheif, who's going to play accordion. So we'll even have Jesus Doesn't Want Me for a Sunbeam covered as far as note for note. So we're really excited about the authenticity of the album and recreating it. Also plan to maybe have a couple surprises, maybe some songs that didn't make it on the first taping of Unplugged. And just really hope that people enjoy it.
And how can people get tickets?
Absolutely. So Molly's
And they got to get
Lips,
them quick, it sounds like.
They do. So they are available directly through the Phoenix. There's
Okay.
some tickets allocated to the Phoenix itself. There's also a Facebook event that's been socializing around. I'm sure we can put the link out there for folks.
Sure.
Molly's Lips, a tribute to Nirvana Unplugged, is the band for the night. So we have a Facebook group.
Yeah.
Tickets are available through our Facebook group through a QR code or a direct link. And you can also reach out to info@Jeff Media, and that's JEPH media.com, and we can make arrangements for tickets as well.
And if folks want to reach out to you, can they book you for corporate or private events?
Yeah, absolutely. So info@jeffmedia.com is the best spot to get me at, and we would love to talk about something.
Because you don't just do covers, you do everything.
Do a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
And the plan is to probably diversify this tribute to Nirvana. We feel like there's a market for the 90s to early 2000s bands, those bands that really just used to write, produce, and create 4 or 5 piece ensembles on stage. So we would, if this event goes well, we'd love to come back and do something else like a Cornell or a Pearl Jam, something like that. So yeah, St. John, come out, right?
Perfect, Jeff. Thank you so much. We're going to hear from Corey next in a minute, and at the end, we're going to play these amazing songs that you did. Always a pleasure to see you. I love you so much. Hi to the family, everyone. Please stop by again.
Will do. Thanks so much, Mandy.
Thanks.
All right.
Corey, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Mandy, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. It's good
know.
to, any reason I get to come to St. John, I will take it.
We've seen more of each other in the last month, I think, than we have in like the last 2 years.
Agreed.
We saw each other a few times here at our friend Julie's club, Punchlines, and then also in Miramichi. So
We did.
Let's start with talking about why were we in Miramichi? Why were you there?
We got to be part of the premiere of Brit Out of Water, which
What is
was
that?
an absolute hilarious ride. Obviously, James, our good friend of ours, not only wrote his memoir, designed a loose script based on his memoir, and we recorded it in the Miramichi in August, towards the end of August, and Bell Media was able to get it edited and put out, and now here we are. We've got 6 episodes on the network. And we couldn't be more excited. We hope people watch it so we can do another season maybe.
Absolutely. So Brit Out of Water. So let's
Yes.
talk first off about who are you? So are you an actor? What are you?
I guess you could say I'm more of a comedian turned actor, accidentally. I was lucky enough to be part of one of the first shows James did in St. John. So when Lloyd Raven put together some of the original shows when James was back that summer, it would be 10 years ago now, I got to do that show at the St. John Theatre Company with James and Francois Weber and myself and Lloyd. And James and I remained great friends, was always happy to do shows with him over the years. So when he made the call to be part of Brit Out of Water, how could you say no to that?
And what did you think? So you received a phone call, and talk me through that.
Well, to be part of something called the New Brunswick Comedy Mafia with a legend of Canadian comedy like Nicky Payne and Derek Seguin and Jimmy McKinley, just couldn't say no to see those
Now,
cast of
did you
characters.
know it was for a TV show, or did you really think it was a real mafia that you were going to be a part of?
I was really glad it was a comedy mafia, not the other kind of mafias. I don't know how good I'd do in that situation, but being part of a comedy mafia was definitely more my speed, and it was a lot of fun. Obviously, you've got Nikki and Derek stealing the show every take, so it was absolutely hilarious.
Sure. And so before acting, let's go to comedy. How long have you been a comedian?
Since 2002.
Oh, wow.
I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was waiting tables and bartending through most of my 20s and was in Fredericton, and friends of mine were opening up a new spot. And like most places, they want to have their grand opening. And instead of doing, a band, they hired some comedians in the province that were going to come in and do some time. And they let them know, and not me, that one of their bartenders was going to be doing some time that night.
Right.
And then, of course, the night before the show, the owners finally let me in on the gig on why I was working the opening was because I was about to do 10 minutes in front of a live audience for the grand opening of their restaurant. And I've been doing it ever since. Like,
Wait,
you
so
do it
talk
once
me
and you
through
get
it.
hooked.
But did you feel like that once that you did a great job? How did you feel? Was there an adrenaline rush? Was there I better not do this again?
Was there?
Yeah, what was the feeling like?
Well, when you wait tables and bartend for a decade, it was every new table was a different stage, right? Every seat at the bar was a different chance to entertain, and then when you realize that relationship is value-based, right? When you're waiting tables and bartending, you provide a laugh, a giggle, some fun to somebody. Hey, they'll grab their friends and come back next Saturday, next Friday, next Wednesday, right? So I always approached it from a position of providing value.
Of course.
Right? And if I could make people laugh,
Of course.
then I know, hey, that they'd come back for more.
Yeah.
And when I did it that first time, you go up with 10 minutes in mind, and comedy was something that I was addicted to as a kid, right? I'm sure you were the same way, whether it was Kids in the Hall or Codco or even recording on Beta, right? Because Dad went with the Beta, not the VHS, right? We had the old Betamax.
Oh, you had money.
Well, and you'd
come from a family
record,
with yeah,
and
you
you'd
did.
record.
Yeah.
You'd record Mike McDonald
Oh,
and his
yeah.
CBC special, and you would watch that sucker until the tape wouldn't play anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, until you're
Right?
Yep.
And so when you step on stage for the first time to do what you think is going to be 10 minutes, and you lose yourself and do 22, and get off stage to a feeling that you've never had before, but one you know you will probably never ever put down.
So you just, it was in you,
Yeah.
like the entertainer. And so after that first show, how many shows did you start to do? Did you put the mic down for a bit, or did you continually go,
Was
grow
lucky.
and build?
Was really lucky, because that restaurant would have opened in like spring, April, May timeframe.
Sure.
And then that summer, that June, was when Fredericton hosted its first ever comedy festival and only ever comedy festival. But what they did was brought a lot of comedians from around Canada, big names that were gonna be doing the shows. I think they had 4 or 5 venues, and luckily I was one of the comedians. So I did maybe 3 shows from that first one, and then did my 4th show to my 10th show in 3 days with some of Canada's best comics as part of Fredericton's only comedy festival.
How did that feel?
Ridiculous. Because you not only had one thing you learned about the Canadian comedy scene, and a lot of them were touring professionals. These gentlemen and ladies were not doing this for 5 and 10 years.
No.
They've been doing this for 20 years.
Sure.
I even forget the gentleman's name, but he was a comedy writer teaching at Ryerson.
Oh, wow.
Right, like people that have been made a career out of not just doing comedy, but writing comedy for TV, for movies, you name it.
Right.
So to get off stage and then to hop in a vehicle to drive that person to their next gig, and then to spend 20 minutes of that person saying, hey, I like the way you did this, or pace it like that, or hey, I love that joke, do it later in your set. Right? So when they would actually sit down and teach you, they'd teach you the fundamentals of pace, of joke telling. And then if you are going to do blue, don't punch them in the face in the first 30 seconds with it. Do some great general material, get them to like you as a friend. Right? And then, you're 7, 8, 10 minutes into your bit, then you can hit them with some more blue stuff, right? So that's stuff you just don't know when you're just starting out. But to have these amazing professionals take time to say, hey, do it like this, or try this, or think about that.
And were
before
you
you
okay
do it.
about criticism and stuff? Do you think that was important to help you, or do you think that stood in the way?
Well, these were as I knew them, comedy masters.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you were sitting,
taking notes.
You were taking notes.
Fully,
And it wasn't that their approach to the feedback was done in such a kind way.
Yeah.
Right, where you were sitting, on the ground, listening to that father figure read stories out of their joke book.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right,
Corey.
and then share those stories and share that information that, you'd have to be on the road for how many years before you would get that kind of feedback?
Oh yeah, gosh, and did you ever fangirl? Like, who's your biggest celebrity other than me? Other than me.
The only person I fanboyed over a little was when I was in Vegas and I almost got run over by Dr. Stephen Hawking.
No way.
Yeah, it was my first time in Vegas. When you land off the plane after a 12-hour flight day, right? And you're a little bagged, and you go out and you have a meal.
That's my everyday look.
Right,
everyday bagged.
Right, you have a meal and maybe a couple beers, and you get back to your hotel room. It's 10 o'clock Vegas time, but for you it's very late, right? Because of the 3-4 hour time difference. And then you get lost in the 1 Hour Bandits, because you're at the Bellagio and you've never seen a Vegas casino before. So you're walking around the floor and you're lost in the lights, and then you realize you're actually lost in 1 Hour Bandits and you don't know where the main trail is to get anywhere, because there's hundreds of them. So I start and I see, when you're looking for something and then you see, and you're like, right there, that's where the main drag is. I'm going to go over there. And you get between 2 1 Hour Bandits and you poke your head out. And as I poke my head out, somebody wheeled by, being pushed by another gentleman. And of course, you pull back because you don't want to get run over. And then my brain realized who it was, and it was Dr. freaking Stephen Hawking. So
that would have been better if he ran you over. It would have been a better TV story. That's
as we've talked about, physics was kind of my thing on the side. So for me, that was my hero. So I followed him, and you're in your head going, how are you going to approach Dr. Hawking? How do you even start a conversation? Right?
Yeah, it would be
and so luckily there were people at the casino much more inebriated than I. and that were also fans of Dr. Hawking. So of course 3 college kids wearing yards around their necks stopped Dr. Hawking to talk to him. So I just kind of slid on beside them and joined the conversation. And the gentleman with Dr. Hawking said, hey, I'm going to go check on our reservation. Would you gentlemen mind keeping
Stephen,
Dr. Hawking occupied while I go check on the
Who am
reservation?
I can call him Stephen, right?
And
Sorry.
so now you're part of 4 guys that are just sitting talking to Dr. Hawking while he's communicating with you as he could with his voice
yeah.
to text and his
And he did an
keyboard.
amazing job.
And he did an amazing job. He was able to hold a conversation with 4 people.
Amazing.
His guest came back and they were going to take him into his reservation.
Okay.
And he said, thanks so much, guys. You have no idea. Most people are really intimidated to approach Dr. Hawking and the language barrier, and they don't know. Thanks for being human and just coming up and engaging in a conversation.
Sure.
You have no idea how much he loves this. And of course, as he goes in to get his reservation at his restaurant, the guys that were way more inebriated than I was leaned to each other and said, well, there we go, guys. We blew it. If there was ever somebody in Vegas who could count cards. So they figured they missed the chance to kidnap Dr. Hawking and take him on a hangover night adventure counting cards in Vegas.
Be a great movie though.
That would have been a way better story.
Yeah, that would have been.
Yeah.
No, that's a great story. So
Yeah.
how did you feel from that moment? Smarter,
that was
obviously.
pretty cool. That was pretty
Smarter.
cool. And for
Yeah.
being your first night in Vegas, to have that happen, and it was probably the only time I've really ever met somebody like that and got starstruck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's insane. And I'm
Yeah, it's
happy you had the opportunity to meet him.
Me too. Me
And
too.
Yeah, and so take me back to comedy. So
Yeah.
so I've been lucky enough to perform with you in a
Yep.
lot of different shows. How long have we known each other now?
Oh, Mandy. Well,
A lot of
5 years
Yeah,
at least.
I think we're, 5
Probably
years,
since
yeah.
Punchlines.
Yeah, I think
Even before
then.
that.
I think
Yeah.
even before then. So we've known each other for a while, that's for sure. And I remember you're always happy, eager. You're out there for everybody, and you always create such a positive vibe and feeling for folks. I watch you backstage in the green rooms, different places, with other comedians, with the other talent,
Yeah.
and it's always fun to watch you be equally excited watching everybody up there and letting them know how great of a job they did. Why is that important to you?
Providing value.
Provide value. Okay.
I started in software, a little over 15 years ago, and it was one of those really intimidating things,
Oh.
right? Because when you're waiting tables and bartending, and I had a small stint, three and a half years in the financial services industry before I moved into software, and it was really pretty intimidating. And I remember one of our CMOs in that first gig I had in the software space said, you're overthinking this. You're just here to make friends. And I always thought about that in relation to my previous careers, whether it was, you're doing stand-up or whether you're waiting tables and bartending. It was all about providing a very unique experience that people don't forget. Because if they don't forget it, you know what, they'll come back. And when they
It's
hear
so
your
true.
name or see your name on that poster, they'll go, oh, we should go to that. Let's go to that. And maybe I get them out a little bit more than somebody else. So I always really had that mantra
Yeah.
of, hey, you have an interaction with somebody, make it worth their while,
Oh yeah.
because you don't know how that person can affect your life down the road.
And you couldn't be more right about that. You couldn't be. I'm just trying to think about that. I was trying to remember also what you're speaking. I think that was our first conversation actually when I said, "Wow, you're with Pink," and you said, "No, Mandy, that's Corey Hart." I think it was something like that. And then I was like, "Okay, we can be friends." And you have a beautiful wife and children. Talk to me about your family.
It's probably the most important thing. Obviously, the last couple years were weird, watching kids having to deal with this, and that was one of the things where I went, you know what, I'm going to work part-time. Was blessed enough in my software career that I got to meet so many cool, amazing people that a number of them were more than happy to take me for a few hours a week. So I could work part-time at the profession I loved while still taking that 3:30 time, hey, kids are off the bus, it's dad time now,
Yeah.
right? I didn't want them to come out of the last couple of years thinking about the things that they lost or couldn't do.
Yeah.
I wanted them to think about the things they gained.
The things they gained, meaning
Time with me.
time with you, because you can't get that back. So
No.
with everything else that's going on in your life, family's the most important, is what you've always told me.
Yep.
and I think that stands true testament to your character. And I had the opportunity when we were in Miramichi to finally meet your mama that you always talk about, and I know she watches the show, and yeah, and she's just phenomenal, and I know she couldn't be more proud of everything that.
Thank you.
Because it's your hard work. You've worked really hard to get where you're at, and I know that you'll have already played, but talk about tonight. It's tonight that you're opening for somebody, and you can talk us through that.
That's one of those crazy things about you just never know how things are going to work out, right? I hadn't seen Francois Weber in a couple of years. He's so funny.
Oh, we love him.
And so when he
we went
was
to lunch
going
with him, wasn't he? We did a show at
the Delta.
Delta, and then we all went out to dinner a couple weeks ago. Oh yeah, we
Yep.
saw each other then too. Wow.
And I hadn't seen Francois in so long. It was obviously wanted to go see
crushed
Nikki.
it. Yep.
And he does what
crushed
he
it.
always does.
Yep.
Had me in stitches.
Yep.
And so sure enough, he called on Wednesday morning. Was, hey, I just had a conversation. Can you do 20 minutes on Monday? And said yes. And it's I get to open tonight, which is the day we're recording today, for Jerry D. Tonight at the Playhouse, and it's sold out.
Wow.
So it was one of those really, really surprising things last week. Was a lot of curveballs.
And this will be in the past when this airs. So how did you do?
I think I did great.
Did you? And what was your favorite part of the night?
The favorite part of the night is probably those first few minutes before you get on stage, when everything is pure electricity and terror.
There's
and
how many people go there? 850. 850 is that venue, right?
Is that venue? Yeah.
Ooh, and you guys are sold out tonight too.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's going to be a big one.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Yeah, amazing.
That's
amazing.
terrific.
I've been lucky enough to do the Playhouse. I think this will be my fifth time, opening for somebody at the Playhouse, and every time I get off stage at the Playhouse is magic.
That's amazing.
So fun.
And so, before you go, I just want, if anybody wants to book you for any events, because I know they will, how can they get a hold of you?
Just Corey Hartland, CoryHartlen. You can find me on all the social medias. That's also my email address, so corey.hartland@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to do corporate gigs, booking, summer parties, you name it.
Okay.
Get me by a campfire in a camper cottage, balloon animals.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I'm there.
And I'm so happy that you made the time to come down here. I always love seeing you. I love everything about you.
Oh, thank you,
Hello
Mandy.
to your beautiful family and everyone, and thanks for coming by. And I can't wait to follow you for your future successes, and congratulations on all the success in one of the best leading roles in Brit Out of Water. Anybody that's watching right now, you can check that out, Brit Out of Water, and you can see Corey and the other comedians in that. Oh, and Mandy-Lynn as an angry cashier. That's correct. Thank you so much, Corey. Love you so
Mandy.
much.
Have a great day.
Thank
you.
Doug, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Well, thank you for having me, Mandy. I'm doing great and glad to meet you and see what we can talk about here.
Absolutely. Whenever I meet anyone for the first time, I like it to be on TV.
Okay, not me.
Yeah, to have an intimate, conversation in front of everyone. All right, Doug, who are you and what do you do?
I am a teacher at Simon's High currently. That's where I'm employed. I do a lot of coaching in the community. That's what I like to do on my spare time. Right? I like coaching from soccer, basketball, volleyball. I've done track, hockey in the past. I've coached multiple sports. So I enjoy that. And I like the reason why I do it, because I had so many great coaches when I was younger. They allowed me to enjoy the sport. Like I look at my high school years, I look at a Bob Monroe, who was really influential on the way I played the game.
Right.
And he was a great coach also. Right? And then you get to meet other people. I met a lot of good friends, like Jason Peters through coaching and that. And I've met I got John Cadet who helped me through soccer. And then you get to meet all these great people.
Right.
And you become friends in that. Like for the story with Jason Peters, I get to meet Ted Dolan. He used to coach the Buffalo Sabres and that, right? And we did that at the North American Indigenous Games, and I spent the whole day with Ted Nolan, and I was just in awe of him, right? And he was just a normal guy, and he talked normal and everything, so It was fantastic. I had a great day with him, right? We ate together, and he had this little stand-up that he was selling T-shirts and that, and his son, who played in the NHL, was there also.
His
So
son
you
as
get,
well. And
yeah.
what does his son do in the NHL, Doug?
He used to play for the LA Kings. I'm not
Oh.
sure if he still does, but he
Okay.
did play for the LA Kings, and he was there. So it was nice to meet a celebrity like that also. So, like I say, and then I got to, through coaching and that, you get to meet another guy like Kevin Duffy, right, who used to coach Acadia University, and then you get to know him, and I used to go down there and do basketball camps for him and everything. So you get to meet a lot of great friends, right? But through that, to be able to do that, you need social support.
Sure.
And I get that from my wife,
Okay.
right? She allows me, maybe she just wants to get away from me for a better and set me off, but no, she's been very supportive because I've been doing this now since, 1979 I've been coaching, and
Wow.
so I've been all these years. It's been a long, long time. I look at the support I get from my administration at the school, right? Gary Keating, for the longest time at Simons High, has retired, supported me 100%. Jennifer Carhart now, that is the principal at Simons High, it gives me 100% support and backing. So it makes it a lot easier for me to do that. And so, like, she give me just time to go away and support, when you have to travel and everything. So she's been really good at that. So I had great support from my administration, and like, I get to meet so many great people through coaching, like Scott Messer, John Cadet, right? Lori Wall, who's been president of the New Brunswick basketball in New Brunswick for so long. You get to meet them people, or even people like from other schools like Jason Kelson and that. I got to meet him. Now he's living out west. We were up in Edmonton this past summer. We were at a basketball tournament, and who comes and sees you is your friends and that. And that's just a great moment, right? That's what it's all about.
So I want to start at the very beginning. Thank you for that. I want to start at what got you into coaching. So for an example, usually when I talk to folks about why they do what they do, which is the premise of Port City Personalities, for my own nosy guilty pleasure.
Okay.
Did you have a coach or somebody impact you, and is that what led you to this direction? Why coaching? Because that's a big job.
Yeah, well, what happens when I was 19 and that, a friend of mine come to me and asked me, can you help me coach hockey? And I said, okay. And we did that with the Simons Minor Hockey Association. And then that got me into it. And then as you get older...
Wait, what was the feeling like when you got into it? Did you find it
When I first got in
hard?
it, I found it... you find out you don't know much.
Okay.
Right?
Which is good, because then you have
Which
the
is
opportunity
'cause
to learn more.
you have to really say, okay, what do we need, practice planning and all that.
Sure.
And then especially when it comes to skills, and so then you have to learn them yourself, all right? And so, and if you can't get somebody, you don't have the ability to do that skill, get somebody to bring somebody in, so it takes a lot of time to do that.
Know what you don't know right
Yeah,
away, recognize
right.
that, and find out who can do what needs to be done.
Yes.
Because ultimately, the success of everybody else is the
Yeah, because
fundamentals.
what we are is basically, my philosophy of coaching is,
Yep.
I say we're facilitator guides, and we're giving the kids guidance, so that not that they're only better in the athletic field, but as citizens also.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very well said. And so, when you were younger, were you in sports?
Yes, I played hockey, basketball, soccer, badminton. I played a multi-ball hockey, and I actually, as I got older, I ended up getting into darts and that. So
Wow, that's
yeah,
something.
I really enjoy it.
And what was the sports that you played early on? Like, what was the very first sport that you remember playing and thinking, I'm pretty good at this?
It was probably soccer, right, at Bayside Middle School and
Right,
that.
yep.
And East St. John, I was a pretty good soccer player.
Yep.
And then as I moved on, I met a priest by the name of Father Phillips, and he used to take our whole community and our friends up to St. Max, and we would play basketball there a couple nights a week. And then I got into I just loved the sport of
You were
basketball.
hooked. You were hooked
yeah,
right away.
I was hooked right
So
there,
as soon
right?
as you, was
Yeah,
it a
was-
feeling? Like,
yeah.
what? Talk me through that sensation.
The sensation was that he made me feel good. You know what I'm saying? Telling you're good at this
Yeah.
and good, and everything was positive, and he just let us play. right?
So
We were
to
just
have
up there
fun.
playing.
You
Yeah.
were there to have
And
fun
yeah.
and build your skills.
And it gives us something to do instead of just running the streets on a Friday
gosh,
night or
yeah.
anything like that. So
Sure.
he took us up there, and it's the St. Max gym at the old gym down in underneath.
Right.
Right. It was just a great opportunity. I got to meet people from the west side, from Grandview Avenue, the South End, and everything. So you got to meet more friends too.
Yeah.
Then later on, I got into the high school, right, and middle school, but mostly high school. I had Bob Monroe, and he was a great, influential person in my life that every day we played, right, and he was there for you. So that was,
something?
yeah.
Yeah, and all right, so I want to talk now about the coaching that you do right now. So talk me through that. Is it multiple teams that you're doing? Is
Yes.
there volunteer work that you're doing in the community? Because from what I know about you, you're very community oriented, and that's why, first off, thank you for coming in, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you.
Well, the year usually goes like this. Let's say we'll start with the fall.
Right.
Right, August 14th and on, I'll coach soccer. And then when you get to November, I got basketball. And I'm currently, right now, after basketball season, coaching volleyball for Simons. And the odd years I used to do track, but now we got a track coach who's a lot better than me.
Right.
Yeah, Simons, her name's Catherine Miller. She's doing fantastic, okay? And then on the other off weekends and everything, I coach minor teams for the Port City Kings now. But in the past, I coached for KVBA, East St. John Minor. So, and then I always did the provincial teams. I coached a multitude of provincial teams, but now I'm doing like a club team. It's just for skills.
Okay.
We're not even hard to play any games. All you do is I get open gym time for them, and we just stress skills. And through that, I got two wonderful men helping me. It's Clint Mayers and Chris Herron. They're helping me with these kids. And like I say, we just work on skills.
And so this is something that clearly you have a lot of passion and drive. Can you tell me one of your favorite success stories where you felt that you really impacted? I mean, you're making a difference every day, clearly, and thank you for that. But can you think of any specific moment or time that you thought, this is fulfilling? This is like...
Yeah. Most of the time, no, it's not when I won. It was when we lost, right? Because you got to be there to support them, and that's one of the hardest things to do, because their emotions have taken over, and they're very sad at the time and everything, and so they let that out, and you got to be there for them.
Okay.
So I remember we lost up in Moncton one time, Simons High, and it was one of these times we thought we should have won, but we lost, and the emotions of those guys crying in the dressing room and that, and you got to support them, is very difficult, right? And you got to be there for them.
Sure. And would you say, I know myself personally, I remember the times that I failed, and I remember the feelings of failure more than the feelings of success, or I won something. And it's always important to me, or it's always very, I want to say it's always very, you get taken back to that, and it's, what did you do? What can you do better? Yeah, those are all, human nature skills, but thoughts. But it's, what have I learned through this? So what have I learned about myself? What have I learned about my character? What have I learned about my team? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, I just did that this morning with our volleyball team. We had a very good weekend up in Fredericton, and we lost. And we're talking about how we lost. I said, don't lie to yourself. And that is, could we have jumped better? Could we have hit better and everything? Yes. And listen to your coaches and everything. So just make sure the athlete does not lie to themselves. Because a lot of people say, yeah, I did it, but they actually didn't do what they were supposed to do. Can they jump, like you say? A girl might be able to jump 12 inches or 16 inches, but in a game she only jumps 12. Then the ball gets hit into the net, right? Did they do everything properly, skill-wise, to perform? And that's what I tried to give the kids this morning, right? Don't lie to yourself, and make sure you're always giving the best effort, because then you
what you
can't
put
fail.
in is what you take
You
away.
can never fail if you give your best effort.
That's so true. And and it's funny because a lot of people will say that even about their daily jobs that they do
Yeah.
or things they do and I always say that about being honest to yourself. If there's days that people talk to in their businesses or when they're out in the community where they'll say, it wasn't my best day today, but it's like, okay, but did you give it your all today? When you woke up, did you have that mindset? Were you able to do that? And if you say that you can give it your all, then that's a win.
Yeah.
It's not about, when you're on diets, if you've been working out at the gym like crazy and then the scale is mad at you and you're up 3 pounds. Okay, but did you do everything right?
I'm up a few pounds right now.
Yeah, we're going to get on that next. That's a separate segment. I'm kidding. No, but it's a number on the scale, right? So it's a number on the scale. It's not, okay, if you've been eating correctly and your diet and your calorie deficit are all in alignment, for instance, then it's just that day. You gave it your all, right? And so then things get better. So in terms of coaching, what is some of the messages that you like folks that are on your teams to take away from sports and skills? So I know already that it's developing your skills, getting better, stronger, faster, more stamina. What else?
Well, like I say, honesty is such a big thing. If you want to really become better,
Right.
you got to realize there's thousands of other people out there competing against you.
Right.
You're not just competing with your team, even though you should compete with your team every day. That's one of the messages I tell my players. I don't care what sport it is, compete. When you're out there all the time, please compete. All right, don't take time off, just compete. If you win, you win. You lose, but at least you show up and compete. All right, and that's the message I try to tell people in the long run. Life is a big competition.
Yeah.
Even when you fill out a resume and put it down, that resume is competing against other resumes. So when they go for a job, you should be able to perform and write a good resume, or you're going to be in trouble.
Absolutely.
So it's the same thing with skills and the game. You got to learn, like I said to the girls, how many of you actually go out on your own and go on the internet and watch videos on how to become better?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
If you can't always come from the coach, you have to do it yourself.
So at the hours you put in when no one's paying attention.
Yeah,
and watching.
and you do that yourself. So, and that's competing, because other people are doing that. And when it comes to skills, work on your skills and everything. And like for the sport of basketball, now I was just shocked the other night. You watch the guy comes up, 6'7" guard, 6'6" guard, right? We get guards around here in New Brunswick. They're only 6 foot, lucky. Right? So you got to remember, you got to do other stuff to compete hard, because eventually you're going to have to compete against that higher level. Every step is a different competition, right? So you might have started in middle school, you were really good, get to high school, and you got to work harder to become better and just make that next step. And then there's university. Okay, so like I said the other night, I met a friend or a player that I coach, Kyle Arsenal.
Right.
He's playing for the St. John Union now.
Yep.
And he told me he's got a job in Gagetown as a fireman, right?
Sure.
And he went to Acadia and he had a great career. And I coached him when he was under 16. And he still remembered me. So I was quite honored when I talked to him after the game, right? And we done basketball camps together down in Acadia. And he gives back to the community. And he's just an awesome individual. And I can see why the St. John Union team has him to be part of their team.
Absolutely.
Because it's more than just ability.
Yeah. And so, Doug, I want to thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate the time that you put in. I appreciate all that you do in the community. Fabulous, fine folks like yourself. Keep on doing what you're doing for our kids, for our youth. It's phenomenal. And of course, we're super appreciative for all that you do, Doug.
Well, thank you, and right back at you, because you do that a lot for the community yourself.
Thank you so much,
Okay,
Doug.
thank you.
Thank you.